If you've seen a little bit of storm activity so far today, that's because we have an active storm system passing above us. It's all originating from the Utah area. We have a low pressure trough which is pushing moisture out ahead of it. And that's exactly what brought us in Grand Junction some passing showers around the 4 o'clock hour. We currently have some wet roadways in Montrose and Delta, and that's going to be short-lived. We will continue to push all of this off to the east, but after we push away the moisture, we'll actually be pushing in some wind, and that is why we have a first alert weather day, because that wind is so strong it has left us with red flag warnings. Now, those red flag warnings were issued by the National Weather Service, and they go into effect at noon and will expire at 8 p.m. tonight. But the catch is we are incredibly dry, even with a little bit of moisture today. Of course, any moisture could help, but our drought conditions are really persistent. So weather is favorable for starting fires and spreading those fires out of control due to the friction of the dry air against the dry ground moving at a pretty fast pace. So almost all of western Colorado, relative humidity rates will see 7 to 12%, which is, again, pretty low. Gusts could get up to 35 miles an hour in some spots, 30 more commonly. And your wind speeds, those consistent rate of movements, those are around 10 to 15 miles an hour. So we do still have a lot of wind on the way. But that does mean you want to be very, very, very careful with anything that could spark a flame. That means chains or metal hanging from driving vehicles, tossing cigarette butts, things like that could all make red flag warnings, and of course wildfires spread out of control if they were to ignite. But when can you expect the main impact of this? The answer to that question would be later this afternoon. Later this afternoon, the main impact will be around 3 p.m. You're looking at about 31 mile per hour wind gusts on average throughout the 3 o'clock hour, and in Delta 32 mile per hour wind gusts at the same time on average. Of course, when I say average, I mean that will be gust rates above the 30s and again below. So that means we are seeing some strong outflow coming from the same direction we saw all the storm activity coming from this morning. And that means later in the afternoon, hour by hour, we don't see much change, and we definitely don't see much improvement. Most areas will eventually calm down into the 20 mile per hour range, but we are still hanging on to those high wind values. So be careful with that later this afternoon, but the fire risk is ever growing. We usually rate these at a scale from about a 0 to an 8 plus, so that would mean a 4 is about halfway up that scale. Anything above a 4 would be considered to be moving into the extreme territory, and watch what happens later this afternoon, because we're not only at 4s, we're usually at 5s as a good baseline. Thursday, 1 p.m., we have a 5 in Glenwood Springs, Grand Junction, Montrose, and Cortez, and some areas jump all the way up to a 6, like the Montrose area hits a 6 eventually, the Grand Junction area hitting 4s and 5s. So above all else, that means our fire risks are extreme. So again, you get the idea. Be careful today with anything that could be flammable, but your high temperatures are at least a few degrees cooler. You're going to get to 99 degrees today here in Grand Junction, 101 in Delta, 94 in the Delta area or the Montrose area, and 96 in Cortez. And your lows about 65 in Grand Junction, 50, 58 in Delta and Montrose, and 50 in the Cortez area. There are absolutely no surprises in your 7-day forecast. Unfortunately, the rain you may have seen this morning or are currently seeing, that's the only rain in the forecast. We could see passing showers in the high country in a few different afternoons this week, but for the most part, we'll be in the 90s for the next several days before we warm right back up to the hundreds. So we are way above average, and we are uncomfortably warm. If we take a look at what's going on in Montrose, we could be seeing some morning rain showers like we talked about, but everything should clear up later this afternoon, and we'll still get to 94 degrees before we get to the later 90s in the week, still above average. And I have yet to see this happen this calendar year. Delta is hitting 100 degrees almost every single day, triple digits every single day for Delta. Again, a little bit of passing rain this morning, but nothing too serious, and the rest of the day warms up and dries out with wind. Cortez not far behind. We're supposed to see temperatures around 91 degrees to be considered average, and we're all the way up above that mid-90s mark, so we are, again, warmer than we should be.